Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Unleash Your Inner Diabetes Dominator. Today I'm really excited to bring you Alissa Podber. She lives with type 1 diabetes and competes in bodybuilding figure competitions, but she wasn't always lean and muscular. She currently works as a therapist, child life specialist, and fitness model. Alissa lives in Austin, Texas with her two children, Molly and Benjamin, age 11 and 14. And you can keep up with Alissa with her blogs and all of her information on her website at www.fitalissa.com. And don't worry, I'm going to put all this under the YouTube video so you can find out where she is. So how are you today, Alissa? Thank you so much.
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for having me.
Of course, absolutely. I love to see fit, strong women out there living with diabetes and not letting everything get in the way of doing what you want. So as I always start out, I'd love for you to share with us your story of your diagnosis and kind of the path you traveled from there to now.
Sure. In the year 2000, I was pregnant with my first child, who's my son, Benjamin. And everybody's so excited to have, a child, and especially your first. And it was just the most wonderful time in my life. And my friends were all getting pregnant, and we were pregnant together. So it was just really exciting. And after 3 months, they usually do what's called a glucose monitoring test when you're pregnant, to determine what your blood sugar levels are. Well, they do one at 1 month, and they do one at 3 months. And at 3 months, usually they have a process that's different than 1 month. So when they did my 1 month, my blood sugar was 141. And that is a lot higher than a non-diabetic or somebody with gestational. So they said, we need to do the 3-hour test. And I was like, no way. I'm waiting till 3 months. I'm not doing this test. I'm very stubborn. And unless somebody tells me why I have to do something and the importance of it, I'm like, it's okay. I don't need to do it. So literally, my doctor said to me 1 month into my pregnancy, newly diagnosed, we won't see you as a patient if you don't go for this. So I was like, okay, I'll do it. So I did the 1 month afterwards, shortly after, and they did the 3-hour, and sure enough, my blood sugars went up to like 250, and I was diagnosed with gestational diabetes. What's gestational diabetes? I just got married a few years ago. I'm excited to be pregnant. Most people who aren't diabetic really don't understand diabetes. They don't know anything about it. I was in that category. I should know. I know about it in the medical field, but I never experienced it. So I know what it's like to treat people with diabetes. I knew what it was like to have patients with diabetes. I didn't know what it was like to live with diabetes. So I was put on insulin. Okay. I don't like shots. I don't like needles, and I for sure don't even watch them going in. I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. I don't need needles. Give me something else to take. I'm not taking needles. So they said, well, it's having a healthy baby or not. I said, I'll take the needle. So I learned how to give myself insulin, and I was insulin dependent for the rest of my pregnancy. So I would say, a little over 8 months, maybe even a little less. And I crave white chocolate macadamia cookies. They're my #1 favorite treat. So if I wasn't diabetic and I was overweight, that would probably be how I gained my weight. So the first thing I said is, most likely gestational goes away. And I was determined that I was done with it, no more needles. My mother had Mrs. Fields cookies waiting for me, white chocolate macadamia nut. When I was in the hospital and gave birth, usually your signs of diabetes go away. Mine didn't. I was like, I don't care. I waited 9 months for these cookies. Give me the cookies. 8 months. And so the doctor and nurse said, let's give her cookies. Let's monitor her blood sugar. There was nothing to monitor. My blood sugar was off the roof and the cookies were taken. And I think I was more upset over the baby being taken than learning how to nurse a newborn. So I was like, this is not happening. And I went for a series of tests. And sure enough, the gestational turned permanent. And it was very disheartening. It was a complete change in my life. I had become depressed. I learned I lost a sense of myself, and how to learn a whole new life that I never lived, not only having a newborn baby, but now having this diagnosis and learning how to take care of myself. one of the biggest bits of advice I give people that I've viewed on myself is when you're on an airplane, the oxygen mask comes down and you have to treat the mother first before the children, because you have to be healthy in order to raise your children. So for me to be healthy, I had to learn how to care for myself. And it was really, really hard to do while having a newborn baby. So that was the very first obstacle I faced when I was diagnosed in my initial experience. I had a doctor, an endocrinologist, who monitored my blood sugar in the beginning, go regularly. And eventually they came up with the right levels for me to live with, manage with diabetes. I had become depressed, but I didn't let that depression stop me. I joined single moms groups. My very best friend, who I was born with, who is still my best friend to this day, who has children my children's age, she had had a newborn too, so we did everything together. She found all the groups. We went to the groups. We had a lunch bunch, a mommy and me, a music together. We went shopping at the mall. We had lunch at the mall. The only difference is I had to give insulin. So I had seen a nutritionist along with my endocrinologist when I was diagnosed, and I had to really be careful with what I ate. When you're diagnosed diabetic, you don't really know how to eat. You don't really know what to do. And it's very depressing, and it's very hard and very emotional. So I found it a challenge to be able to eat out and nurse and take care of my newborn. So I went through a lot of challenges and changes in my life, but I used the tools and the resources that I had to cope and get through it. And that was my first stage of my diagnosis.
Absolutely. I think you brought up a really good point there, and I've said this very many times, that I think it's very much more difficult. I know this might sound weird, but it's more difficult to get diagnosed with diabetes type 1 specifically when you're already an adult versus when you're a child. I feel like when the child gets diagnosed, all of the pressure is on the parents, because the child is used to doing and living the way the parent is caring for them. But when you're an adult, you've already set out to be the way you want to be as an adult. You've already kind of made your life the way you want it, and then all of a sudden this diabetes, like you said, comes in and you have to relearn everything. So I totally agree with that. It's very difficult, I'm sure.
It's every day is difficult. It's just how you live with it and how you manage it.
Yeah, and I was saying earlier, so my cat decided to sit here, and this is real life. I didn't plan this, but yeah. So after you learned all of the stuff that you needed to learn and kind of got where you needed to go, were you competing with fitness competitions before you were pregnant, or is that something you got into after the baby came? Way after, much longer. I gave birth to my daughter in 2003. You have a happy, both the boy and the girl, so you could say, I'm done, I have one of each. And my daughter was born in 2003. And now I've learned to live with my challenges, my diabetes, and my son. There's a 3-year gap between the two of them. And I have 2 now. And I did the same things I had always done. And I have always been athletic. For me, my challenge to myself is my competitive nature. And I was a swimmer. I swam through college. I did gymnastics. I played basketball. I played tennis. I rode bikes. And I was determined to do all of that with my children. My parents taught me. So we were always outdoors. I grew up in New Jersey, and as you know, living in the Northeast, we have more cold than not. So you find ways to have activities indoor and outdoor. So we did a lot of indoor activity. We went to Gymboree, just many different mommy and child programs. I went back to work shortly. My daughter went into daycare. I had to maintain my CEOs and my certification. So I walked enough hours to get my recertified as a therapist. And then I became
a mom again. And I got both my children into sports at a very early age, swimming, riding bikes, just a little bit of everything. And so that's how we lived through 2008. And in 2008, that's kind of when my life really unfolded.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So tell us. So that's what I want to know. So what was the catalyst for you? You know, now you're 8 years or so in living with diabetes. You've gotten kind of into a groove. You have your kids. And I believe your daughter also has diabetes. Is that correct?
Right. So
Right.
as far as competing, I had always done sports, like I had mentioned, and I had got into fitness after the birth of my daughter, although I was always in it before. I went to the gym every day. I took classes. I lifted weights. I stayed in shape. And I had decided that I wanted to find a competitive sport. So I started boxing in 2007. I took a kickboxing class at the gym, and I loved it. So I decided, well, let me try this out. And I went to a gym, boxed at an amateur level, and got knocked out pretty hard. And I'm like, I'm done. Another sport to go to. So my dream, my entire life, and this is something I can speak about also as we go through our interview and our discussion, my dream, and always find a dream, because dreams can come true. They will come true if you set your mind to do it and you say, I can do it. My dream, my number one dream, which may not happen, but I want to be a sportscaster on the field of the New York Giants. Huge Giant fan. That won't happen most likely. We could dream big, but that's the hugest dream you can dream. But you never know. My second biggest dream is I wanted to be a fitness competitor. I'd always wanted to just be on stage, compete, be in tip-top shape, and prove to myself I can do it. And that was a realistic dream. So in 2008, I said, all right, well, now that I'm done boxing, I'm going to try to go into fitness. I found the gentleman who owned the boxing gym. I had asked him, do you train fitness competitors? And he said, yeah, I have before. So I said, can you train me? And he said, yeah, but you're going to need somebody to work with you on posing and coaching and dieting and all that. I can do the training aspect. So he put me in touch with people who competed themselves, and not only competed, but I needed to be on a diet that worked with my diabetes. And so that was something considerable. Like, I had to consider it. Really, I had to consider it. How am I going to do this? How am I going to manage my diabetes? And how am I going to compete? And is this doable? Doable is doable. Anything's doable. You have to have the mindset. You have to have the drive. You have to have the motivation, but most of all, you have to want it. Nobody else but you, and you have to be ready to do it when you're ready, no matter what it is in life. That's including managing diabetes. So I went to my endocrinologist. I thought he was going to think I'm crazy. I wanted to go on Survivor. I still want to go on Amazing Race, but I can't go on Survivor, so I gave that up quickly.
I was going to ask. I was like, I don't think they're probably going to take that liability.
Eating wasn't crazy because I'd asked to go on Survivor, so he was okay with that. So I worked with a nutritionist, and I worked with the people who were helping me compete, and I worked with the endocrinologist and my trainer, and between all of us, we came up with a plan. So really, in order to do fitness competitions, it's a team effort. You can do it on your own. You just need that initial guidance, but you also need really, really close contact with your endocrinologist. It cannot be doable if you do not have that close contact with your endocrinologist or a dietitian. Those are the two key factors. Once I had that in place, I trained. That was the easy part. The hard part is managing your diabetes with your diet and your training program. The exercise is the hardest thing you could do with diabetes, because for me, it's trial and error. Sometimes people don't need to take insulin before and after exercise. Some people drop low, like I'm always low after exercise, always within a 3-hour period. So for me, my regimen is completely different, but it took us many months to figure it out. Other people might be high after exercise, but drop at the end of the day. So that's why you really need to have close contact with your endocrinologist.
Yeah, I think that's a great point that you brought up. A couple things is, one, that I get this question a lot as a coach, is that, can you talk more about diabetes and exercise and how to make that perfect? And I have to say, there's not really a perfect. Perfect is not real. It's kind of like you have to stop shooting for this thing that doesn't exist, because it's exactly like you said, it's trial and error, and one day might be one thing, and then the next day might be another thing, and there may not be any rhyme or reason for it. It could be hormonal, it could be stress related. And that's the thing for me, if I do CrossFit, my blood sugar usually shoots up. When I run or do yoga, I'm usually pretty level, or I might drop. But it's, again, every time I do it, it's not the same. And I think people are looking for this permanent solution to diabetes and exercise, which unfortunately doesn't exist. But I don't think it's necessarily unfortunate, because it allows us to get more in touch with our body, what the signs that our body is sending us, and getting us to get more in touch with what's going on, so we can, instead of just waiting for this solution to happen, because like you said, it's not going to happen. You have to consistently be on top of it. And it is great that you have an endocrinologist that is able to work so closely with you, because I know me and a lot of other people in the diabetes community have had a lot of issues with finding an endocrinologist that we feel are able to really relate to the struggles of living with diabetes. I went, probably of my 24 years with diabetes, I probably went more than 10 years without seeing an endocrinologist and completely taking care of myself, because I had so many bad experiences with endocrinologists that weren't open to my suggestions on what I needed for my diabetes, because diabetes is not an across-the-board disease that everybody has the same needs for. It's a very individual disease. So I'm very glad to hear that you have an endocrinologist that has that. And I always tell people, doctors, just like any other service provider that we have, if they're not giving you what you need, they are, in lack of a better term, they're fireable. Just like if you took your car to a mechanic and they didn't fix your car or help you in the way that you wouldn't go back to them, you're paying that doctor. You have the right to choose other doctors as well. So a little bit off track, but you brought up a lot of points that brought up points in my mind as well. So please continue on and tell us more about maybe how you got into your first competition and more about that.
So I had, like you said, I've been really fortunate that I had this team of people. And so my very first show, I selected, because I'm from New Jersey. I grew up right outside Manhattan in Bergen County.
Nice. I lived in Monmouth County for about 2 years. So
that's exactly where I moved to. I moved to a county adjacent to that. I lived right outside of Princeton for 13 years. So so my endocrinologist was located in that area. And so I picked, I'm a city girl, even though we're from Jersey. We always say we're from New York too. We share the New York Giants, New Jersey. So I decided to do one of the biggest shows in New York Metropolitan, and I registered and I competed, and I placed second overall.
Wow.
Very first show, and it was really a big show. And I was really proud of myself. To me, it was winning because it's at the top. So I say I won because I feel a winner in my own eyes. And I was like, okay, well, let's pick another one. I'm on a roll. I'm still in shape. So I decided to do the Lehigh Valley show in Allentown, Pennsylvania, which was another really big show. I tried to find the larger shows in the cities or outside of the city, and I researched it. So I placed second again overall in my second show.
Nice.
In figure. I do figure competitions. So a lot of people ask me, what's bodybuilding? Do I look like a man, or do I do steroids? Or, I get every question under the sun. But it's normal, because when you think of bodybuilding, you think of Arnold Schwarzenegger. You think of women who look very masculine. I never wanted to look like that. I want to look feminine. So there's different categories. There's bodybuilding, there's fitness, and there was figure when I was doing it in 2008. And since then, I can share with you what I compete with now. So I decided to do figure competitions. So that was those were my first 2 shows. And shortly after my second show, I was on this high. It was going into the summer. It was in June. I was in tip-top shape. I couldn't wait to go to the Jersey Shore, wear my bikinis, take my kids and play in the sand, do outdoor sports, and still keep up with my physique. Another thing I want to stress that's really important is when you do a competitive sport or a non-competitive sport, I had struggled with obesity. I gained 75 pounds with my son and 80 pounds with my daughter. I was overweight. It was a struggle to lose that weight. There goes the determination and the drive. So here I had a child in 2000 and 2003, and in 2008, I competed on stage in a figure competition and placed second overall. So I did have that stamina, will, and drive to discipline myself to overcome obstacles with weight and the challenges that your body faces as a diabetic with the highs and lows and the weight gain and the weight loss. It all plays, like we were talking about a little bit ago, it has an effect. So I decided, okay, you got to stay in shape. So consistency is my motto.
Oh, me too.
Keep on keeping on, and consistency. That is one of the #1 things that I tell people. How do you do it? Consistency. Consistency. Keep on keeping on. I blog. In my blogs, I always talk about positive, inspirational stories. But the reason I talk about that is on the day I might write that story, I might be exhausted, and I may not want to go to the gym, but I force myself. Consistency. You have to be consistent.
Absolutely. So, I just want to say one thing, and I think it's really great and it's super inspirational for people out there watching, is that, and I don't have kids, so I can't speak to being pregnant. I can speak to losing 65 pounds, not from baby weight, but especially for the people out there who have had children, maybe gained 75, 80 pounds, and maybe you don't want to be a figure competitor. That's not your goal. But maybe you do just want to be healthier, you want to feel more comfortable in your own skin. You're an excellent example of how ultimately possible that is. Not only is it possible to get your body back, or however you want to look at it, but you're not the same person you were. Your body's not the same as it was before you had a baby, after. So you're kind of working on the upgraded version of your body. It's like that was version 1.0, now you're working on version 2.0. And whether or not your goal is to be a figure competitor, that may not be the point, but the point is that you are. So, maybe people out there might just want to get halfway to where you are, and that would make them super happy. So I love that that's, you're out there as an example of that.
And it's true, because there's a 90-year-old, Boston's the fit capital of the world. And there's a 90-year-old man who runs, who does master running, who travels, who's so well known here in Austin. 90 years old, the man looks like he's 50.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's never too late in life to get up and be active. Like I said, it's your mindset. You have to be willing to do it. I'm so happy to share everything I experienced and all the stories, all the triumphs and tribulations, everything I've overcome, everything I've been through. But I wanted to do it. I had to be ready to do it. So yeah, so I appreciate that. Thank you.
Absolutely. And I love what you say too about you have to be ready to do it. I like to I think I give that a different name, but it's the same thing, is that you have to also have a why. Why are you doing it? And you say you have a competitive nature. I think you probably compete against yourself, because that's something that I do as well. I probably am not competitive like you, where I'm not I don't necessarily, and that's weird because everybody, I know my husband's super competitive. He's one of 7 children. I'm an only child, so I never felt like I had to compete, but I'm always feeling like I'm competing against myself. If I'm going out for a run or a jog in the woods, I'm looking at the record from the day before. Okay, I'm going to get 1 second faster than yesterday, or else I'm not beating myself. And I think that's really important. Why do you want to do that? So you can get better every day, so you can make progress. Whatever your why is really important. So awesome. Tell us a little bit more. I was going to say, if you want to keep going, or I could ask you about 30,000 more questions.
Yeah, 2008 is when my life unfolded, and I think that's kind of when I exposed my life this year about everything that I've been through. Really, although I was diagnosed in 2000 through 2008, I really felt like I used it to the best of my advantage. I lived life like I didn't have diabetes and worked on myself and managing it. So in 2008, like I was saying, it was the summer, and I went away on vacation with my family, and I came home, and my daughter, shortly after my Valley show in Pennsylvania, oh, this is what happened. We went to Hershey Park, which is very close to Allentown. My family came into town to watch me compete, and the very next day we went to Hershey, Pennsylvania. My daughter, we were at that Hershey factory.
Mm-hmm.
My daughter kept going to the bathroom. She kept drinking. She was tired. All the symptoms of diabetes. I was scared because realistically, I knew that those were the signs and the symptoms, but I was in denial, saying, no, they're not, even though I knew it really was. And my mother knew something was wrong, and she was very upset with my daughter. She thought, why are you going to the bathroom? My daughter got so sick, we didn't even make it to Hershey Park. We came back home, and because I'm diabetic and I have my glucometer, I'm like, I'm going to check her sugar. Her sugar was over 500.
Oh, my God.
Oh, my God. So it's like a dog in lightning when they're pacing in circles and they're nervous. I did loops around my house really quickly. What am I going to do? What am I going to do? What am I going to do? There's this like automatic response mechanism when you're in a state of trauma. It's amazing how quickly your body thinks. So I just used my knowledge and thought the first thing I did was, okay, I know she's going to have to go to the hospital. Let me call the pediatrician. I called the pediatrician. Thank goodness he was accessible that day. And rather than going to the hospital, I ran her right down to the pediatrician. The pediatrician diagnosed her. They automatically admitted her into the hospital. I'm lucky. We talked about doctors. I research doctors. I make sure that whoever I use, I try to make sure they're the most reputable and that I'm satisfied with them. So I had a really good pediatrician, and she was admitted in the hospital. We had excellent pediatric care. And now not one, but two. And not only that, she was 4 years old. What do you do with a 7-year-old and a 4-year-old who's newly diagnosed with diabetes, and a mom who's only had diabetes for a short window of time and just learned how to manage her own? Oh, great. Whole different ballpark, like nothing you or I would have to live with. Children are a new category.
Yeah, and I think mothers just have obviously this inherent need to protect their children, and it's kind of like an animal instinct. You want to do anything you can to make sure your child is not in pain or feeling pain, and when they get a diagnosis like this, it's like you can't stop it, but luckily, well, maybe the word isn't luckily, but maybe it is that you did have that experience so that you could kind of guide her in the way that she needed to be guided. But yeah, I can't imagine. So for the parents out there, it's like, imagine you and your child having diabetes as a double whammy. It's quite, let's say, quite impressive what you've done so far. But continue, please.
A big question I had, which is why I'm bringing up now, is I lost that thought. Oops.
That's real life, like I said. This is not scripted, folks.
Oh, I know. Okay. Oof, I'm thinking clearly again. Is this genetics? That's what I ask people. Is it genetics? Does it run in your family? Genetics can be a lot of different things. That is not something I have any experience with. No, I don't know how it's genetics in my family because nobody in my immediate family has it. We tried to figure out how this occurred. We don't know. All I know is my first cousin, who's now deceased for improper care with his diabetes, and my other first cousin's son, who would be my second cousin, lives with diabetes. And he was really the second person in our family, other than my first cousin, and then there's me, the third, because I was diagnosed after both of them. And now my daughter, who's the fourth. So apparently, yes, genetics is involved, because if I have it and my daughter has it, it's proven. We didn't think it was genetic until my daughter had it. So now I realize genetics can play a big factor in it.
I'm sure genetics plays a huge factor, and again, that's not my expertise either. I'm the only person in my entire family of all history that I know of who has diabetes. But I know there's a genetic factor, and I know there's a trauma factor, and I was kind of stung by a Portuguese man-of-war, which is like a giant jellyfish, like that could be up to like 6 feet long, and I was diagnosed with diabetes about 5 to 6 months after being stung, had the venom in my system, and they kind of contribute my diagnosis to that. But I know that from all the research I do and all the reading and education I get, that genetics does play a huge factor. But just like you don't know, a lot of doctors don't know either, and that's why there's no cure. So continue.
Yeah. So now I have a 4-year-old and myself with diabetes, and this all happened in August of 2008. I finished competing in June of 2008, but I was staying consistent with my figure, with my diet, and my training. Although I didn't train at the same level, I knew I wanted to continue competing because it was just so exciting. I had lived my dream, and I didn't want to give my dream up. So this happened in 2008 in August. And within the same month, my father, who's my best friend, was having dinner with another couple and just fell over on the table. And he suffered a massive stroke and now has aphasia and can't speak, lives in a nursing home, and was my best friend. And I pretty much lost him back then. And although he's alive and he lives in Boca Raton, Florida, it's like I've lost that person. I've lost that best friend. You learn how to live with it, but it's hard to live without it. So that happened. So now I have a daughter with diabetes, a departure of that relationship with my dad. And then my now ex-husband took a position in Austin, Texas, almost without me knowing, just accepted it and said, I'm moving. And I'm like, what do you mean we're moving? We have a daughter with diabetes. I have diabetes. Our life is here. How do you expect me to pick up and move? Here's a funny joke. You probably can relate. As a Northeasterner, do we know anything about Texas?
I've never been to Texas. I just know what I know from, reading and news, and I've never been to Texas, so I don't know too much about it.
I like to crack jokes. A lot of people know that about me. I'm a huge New York Giant fan. I say they're my third child. Okay.
And I know you keep saying that, and I'm like, I'm gonna keep it quiet because I'm an Eagles fan, but I don't really care about football, so I just like to tease people. So go ahead.
So the joke is here. The only thing I know about Texas is I hate the Dallas Cowboys.
I know, I hate that too.
And the other thing I know is I grew up watching the show Dallas with JR and whoever else is in that show. Right. My family grew up watching it, like they watch all my children. We grew up watching Dallas. So I'm thinking, okay, I know Dallas is on the map, and I know the Alamo is San Antonio, but what is Austin? You should know Austin is the capital, but it's almost like another country, Texas. So he says we're moving to Austin.
It's such a huge state. It's gigantic. So
yeah. So what do? I research doctors, I research schools, I Google, everything Google. And I'm like, well, when are you moving? 2 weeks. Well, what do you mean 2 weeks? School's starting in 2 weeks. Our schools are here, And he's like, well, sell the house and we'll move. And I'm like, in 2 weeks? Okay, this is where I give myself the credit. I didn't know how to do a lot on my own as a new mom, as a married wife. You're always learning. It's new. You're new. Like children are new. How do I pack? How do I move? What is Texas? How do I get there? Ohio, you got to go through Ohio, Tennessee. Oh my gosh, you don't even realize how big Tennessee is until you drive through the whole state. So Yeah, I packed my house up on my own with my friends in 2 weeks, sold my house in 2 weeks.
Wow.
And got in a car, researched schools, researched doctors, didn't even pick out a house. My ex-husband emailed me one and said, do you like one of these three? I'm like, sure, pick that one. Hadn't seen the house. We moved 2 weeks, sold a house, packed the house, took a diabetic child, myself diabetic, no doctors, picking them on the internet, speaking to people on the phone and saying, we're coming. Got to Austin. Hi, Austin. Where are you? Texarkana is on the border getting in there. That's a funny story in itself.
Yeah.
Got to go through Dallas to get to Austin. So my first experience with Dallas. And I'm in Austin. Boom. I don't know about cowboy hats. I don't know about cowboy boots. I don't know about Southern accents. All I know is there's Dallas and the Dallas Cowboys. So where am I? There's a lot of ranches. There's a lot of farms. There's a lot of longhorns. And then there's this house. I'm like, oh my God. So depression kicked in big time. Huge. Didn't even know how to get to the mall. Or the highway. And they didn't have MapQuest in the field. So it was very hard. But there was a school around the corner, and I knew how to get to the doctor's office. Not yet the hospital, but I knew it wasn't far along the way. And I moved, and I had to learn how to acclimate myself and start over. But about 2 months later, which I don't want to get into details, unexpectedly, I got divorced. Who moves to Texas, who has no friends, who has 2 children, relocating, all new doctors, schools, medical necessities, and now learning how to be single and can't move back. What do you do? I don't know. So luckily my best friend from college lives in Houston with her family, and she helped me. She helped me figure out what to do, and she came to Austin and she helped me move, and we went house looking, and I found a realtor and I moved out. So my children went to a new school district. I had to research a new school, research everything, but I still kept the medical care that I had. And I started over again. This time it was on my own. I'm a therapist, so I went out and found work and built up my own business. I independent contract through a government agency here in Austin. Supported myself. Here's a funny story, really quick. You can't file for divorce in Texas unless you're a resident here for 6 months. 3 months for me. I'm a resident of New Jersey, not Texas. You have to have sold a house within 6 months in New Jersey in order to not be a resident, and a resident in Texas for 6 months. So I'm in the middle, 3 months. So I moved out, no divorce, no separation agreement, and 2 kids with no husband on my own, and diabetes for 2 people, and a new school again, and doctors on my own, taking my children on my own, pediatrician appointments. It was hard. I had to support myself. I never did that before. I had to go out and make an income. I did it. I had to pay for medical bills. I had to pay for everything on my own, everything. And I found a way to do it. And I did. And
yeah. I don't have to say, that's so awesome. And I think here for me, the big takeaway, and I think for a lot of people, the big takeaway is this. Through struggle, through what you perceive to be struggles that may not be something that you think you could ever get through, whether it be first getting diagnosed yourself, then your child getting diagnosed, then losing your relationship with your father, then moving in such a quick manner, and then getting divorced. We're talking like a lifetime of trauma happening in a really short period of time. But even in the face of that, you're here talking to us now as a successful mother of 2, fitness competitor, and you're here and you're managing your diabetes super well. And I mean, I think that's the whole point of my interview series, and you just really kind of summed it up into one beautiful little tragic package, which is that's not me being funny. I think that's tragedy can be beautiful because it depends on what we make of it. Just like you, I talk openly about my struggles. My father passed away the day after my 12th birthday. My sister died of, she was a heroin addict. I've had a lifetime of struggle as well, but the point is this, is that we all have struggles. Every single one of us has our own story, that we go through this trauma, or we might go through 5 traumas, or we might go through 25 traumas. But at the end of the day, it's how we react to those traumas and how we put ourselves out into the world after these traumas hit us that's going to determine the quality of life that we live. Whether we're happy, whether we're sad, whether we're negative, whether we're positive, whether we have a family of happiness around us or we have a storm cloud over our head, it's up to us. No matter what tragedy we've been through, it's up to us to decide what's going to happen after the tragedy. And I think you're like this perfect example that, look, tragedy happens and here I am shining bright like a diamond and doing my thing. So that's super awesome, and I couldn't be happier for you. That's amazing, and I'm really glad that I get to be here listening to your story and hearing how you had this success and had that mindset and that consistency even through bouts of depression. Of course, it wasn't like just this, you know, oh yeah, here's the tragedy and now all of a sudden everything's better. No, you had depression, you had weight gain, you had this, you had that, you had to get help. We all need all of that stuff, but it's the will and the decision to put that into place that got you and I where we are today. Happy and functioning and living life and having diabetes that's not controlling our lives. You know, we're choosing. I think the thing is here is that we're choosing to be the victor, even though it would be easier to choose to be the victim. I think that's what my takeaway is from all of that.
No, I agree. And I think you're absolutely an inspiration. And I have been researching you, and part of the reason why I enjoy what I do is I have such admiration for people like you or for people like Ginger. I feel like I want to be you guys. I want to strive for better because we're all in the same boat. Yeah. And what I see in you or what I see in Ginger, I say, oh, I admire you so much. And then when people say to me they admire me, I have to stop and think and say, well, I'm different than you and Ginger. I'm my own person. So we inspire because we want other people to know that if we can do it, you can do it. Not everybody is the same. We're all different.
And that's such a great point too, is because, you know, I admired Ginger before I even got into this. And it's just, the thing is that we all have our own unique perspective. And that's one of the things I love so much about the diabetes online community, is that we all have a voice. Like you said, we're all on the same team. And even if you're out there struggling, there's somebody out there that we can all relate to. And we all have this story that could inspire a handful of people. Ginger inspires people. I inspire people. You inspire me. I mean, God, the thought of being a fitness competitor, like that's like, to me, one of the scariest thoughts in the world. And I do CrossFit. Like, oh my God, for me to get up on a stage in a bikini, I would like pass out. Like that's like one of the most admirable things in the world. So the point is this, is that if you're out there watching and you think that you're not inspirational and that you didn't, I guarantee you there's 1,000 people or more out there that are wishing that you would open your mouth and tell your story, because we all have an ability to inspire people to be better, to do better, to feel more comfortable in their own skin. And that's why I do these interviews, because I want to expose as many people out there who have awesome stories, which is, I believe, everyone, doesn't matter what it is, that you can do it. We can all do it, but it's better to do it together.
Exactly. So
alone.
So then I know a lot of people say, well, what did you do? How did you overcome all of this? So in 2013, I went on Weight Watchers because it's a healthy eating plan. Mm-hmm. I have always struggled with my weight, always, even though I was fit and thin at one point. Throughout childhood, throughout adulthood, everything. I was an athlete. I was a swimmer. We all pack on the pounds. We all are at an uncomfortable weight, but you find out balance in your life. And I joined Weight Watchers because I had been a lifetime member, and I decided, let me go back to that. Well, I lost 25 pounds in a short, in a period that Weight Watchers accepts it as a healthy weight loss. So whatever those pounds were lost in, it was a healthy, I can't recall the exact amount of time, but I did it healthy, weighing in every week, going to the meetings every week, following their plan, writing every single thing down that I ate, because I knew if I kept a journal of what I ate, if I went down the healthy eating food choices that were diabetic friendly, that I, brought to a nutritionist and found an endocrinologist, I can do this. So that's exactly what I did. My hemoglobin, like you, was over 13. My weight was 170 something pounds, 75, close to 180 maybe. I just had the mindset to do it. Now, I don't know the exact weight or the exact time frame. I'm just giving like a big area of what I have done. So
right. And that's good, because that, as a nutritionist, as a health coach, as somebody who, is a certified personal trainer and has bachelor's degree in this specific area, I love talking and hearing about the story, but I think it's perfect that you don't give a time frame, because that's probably the number one question that people ask me when they work with me. I have 8-week programs, and they say, well, how much weight can I expect to lose in 8 weeks? I said, that's not anything that I'm going to tell you or anything that I'm going to claim to happen, because just like diabetes is not the same for anybody, losing weight, getting into the groove of your nutritional lifestyle, that's not something that can be predicted, and the only way that you're going to find out how long it's going to take you is by doing it. There's no guarantee. I would never tell a client you're going to lose 10 pounds in 8 weeks, because that's insane. I can't say that. Maybe you will. Maybe you'll lose 20 pounds. Maybe you'll lose 5 pounds. I don't know, because it's going to depend on your actions, your consistency, and your readiness, your willingness to commit to the plan, and how your body's going to react to everything that you do. That's not something that I or even a doctor or anybody could ever predict, because human bodies, although we all have the same functioning parts, we're all like snowflakes. We all have our own unique chemistry that works in our own little ways that are affected by every little thing differently, and we have to be the ones that figure that out for ourselves, listening to the signs that our body is sending us, and we have to be diligent on that, and there's no claim. So I'm glad you're not giving a full time frame, because that's, that's good. Don't worry about that.
So whatever my weight was and whatever I had come to exactly, I had come to a place where mentally and my mindset and through consistency over time, I said, okay, now that you're in a good place, you need to have a goal. Set goals. If you read my blogs, it's so important not only to have the mindset and the consistency, you have to set goals for yourself, not New Year's resolutions. No. Goals. Realistic goals. Not, I want to lose 50 pounds in a week, or I want to have flat abs in 3 weeks. That drives me crazy. No, it doesn't happen. You have to have a realistic goal. I want to lose weight. I want to get in shape. How am I going to do this? You have to research. You have to see what's best for you, individualized. And so for me, okay, I lost this weight on Weight Watchers. I can do it. My dream was to compete. How can I compete again? How can I compete? Well, this is where my story became uplifting. I have, and everybody should know this, I go to Texas Diabetes and Endocrinology, and my doctor is Dr. Thomas Blevins, and I am blessed. I use the word blessed because you've heard about my hardship, but I found blessings. I find things that are positive. I surround myself now around the positive. I only want to be positive. I can't even listen to negativity. I try to tune it out. My doctor has been, I think, the biggest reason, not only for myself with my success, but my general overall success, because he came on board with me. He knows what I'm not necessarily sharing, some of the hardships and other things that I face, but has supported me. And what he says is, I have confidence in you. When somebody says they have confidence in you, it speaks thousands and thousands of words. Why? You have this medical professional at the height of what you need, having confidence in you. So that way I had confidence in myself.
Nice.
So at that point, I had to start over again. I had to learn how to get my diabetes from, 13.5%. With this weight loss that I've accomplished to more weight loss, which when you lose weight, diabetes fluctuates again.
Oh, yeah.
So I had to learn how to live now my fourth life. Me being diagnosed, my daughter being diagnosed, me moving, and now relearning how to live a new diabetic life, and with that diabetes, going back to competing in a new state, in a new environment, as a single mom with the same challenges, but the right mindset, the positive attitude. So that's exactly what I did. And I'm blessed. I hired a trainer. I have a dietitian that I work with in my endocrinologist's office. Now, that's another thing we need to discuss, and I'm sure a lot of people would like to hear that. And I might be jumping off the subject, but a team of people is what you need to do this. I think a team of people is what you need overall. And I don't mean paying people. I don't mean not having a team at all. What I mean is you have to find the right people. I need a dietitian because I need to know what to eat. I need to how to feed my diabetes so that I can keep my blood sugars regulated. I had no foggy clue. I know about nutrition from Weight Watchers or from dieting most of my life. Now it's a healthy eating plan, but I didn't know how to carb count properly. I thought I did. I didn't know what complex carbs are, and these are what we carry. I didn't know that when I work out, don't take these. They're good. No, do take these. Believe me, do take them. These are faster acting. When you're active, it goes down quickly when you have a low blood sugar than chewing these.
See, and me and Alissa have never met, and we're sitting at our computers in Philadelphia and Texas with the exact same blood sugar treatment. There's no treating blood sugars with candy. It's treating blood sugars with glucose, because that's a whole other road to get down. Treating blood sugars with candy and treating blood sugars like they're a way to have a treat is one of the fastest ways to gain weight with diabetes, because we create this psychological link in our minds that having a low blood sugar equals it's time to treat ourselves with something unhealthy. And that's what I did, and that was one of the reasons why I was 200 pounds for almost 10 years of my teenage life up till when I was almost 20, because every time my blood sugar was low, I was like, oh, it's time for Oreos. Oh, it's time for cake. Oh, it's time for cookies. No, that's a very, very bad psychological link. And when you have these on hand all the time and make that a very, very, very strong must in your life to have these with you at all times, that is when you can start eradicating that negative association with, oh, my blood sugar is low, it's time to have a treat, because it's not. It's not a fun time to celebrate. It's just get done with it and move on, and that's what these gels do for you. So
I didn't even know that until recently. I mean, that's why I think, and I can't speak for anybody, I could speak for myself and only encourage. In my opinion, I feel that everyone at some point in time who has diabetes should use the resources through their endocrinologist. If you have financial circumstances, which we probably all do, having diabetes and a child and yourself with it, there are resources out there that don't require paying. If you have insurance, if you don't have insurance, you have to ask for these resources, and your doctor wants you to be healthy if you want to be healthy. So when you find the right resources, like finding a good doctor, finding the right nutritious plan, you'll be amazed at how much your mindset, your drive, your dreams, everything changes, everything. And so I use a dietitian in my doctor's office now who has completely helped me relearn what I've never learned, but also with the team of people. So I work with my doctor, Dr. Blevins. I work with a dietitian in his affiliated with his office. They work together, like synonymously. Like as soon as I see the dietitian, they go right back to the doctor. Well, as I decided to commit to competing, it's more than just your doctor and a dietitian. You have to have a diet written for you, because you can't just get up on stage and be fit by eating healthy through a dietitian who teaches you carb counting. You have to have that structure, that drive, that mindset, that determination, and discipline. Discipline's a key word. And with all that, you have to have a plan written for you, like an athlete, a runner, a triathlete, a cross trainer. You have to have that. You can't necessarily just say, I want to compete, without having the education and the resources and tools.
Absolutely. And I just want to say, I think that's absolutely true. But for those out there, who aren't looking to compete, you don't necessarily need to have a plan written for you. You may need to sit down with a dietitian or somebody like a nutritionist or somebody like that. I think that if you're on a plan to get on stage and show off your body, yes, you need that. But I think a big part of it for a lot of us is having someone to guide us, but then learning our own healthy lifestyle by putting food in that we know is healthy after we speak to somebody about it. I think that I don't want to scare people off by thinking that the only way that they can get healthy with diabetes is having a specific plan, meal by meal, written for them. Although it may be helpful, I think that's just more pertinent for, like you said, a bodybuilder, a triathlete, things like that, because you are having this very, very specific physical goal to meet. But yeah.
So in addition to all that, I had to hire somebody who also who could write me a diet. So, and other than Dr. Blevins and the team of people that work with him, there's a gentleman. Forgive me, Joe, I can never say your last name. I'm going to call you Joe K, and they can look at you. The Diet Doc. His name's D-I-E-T-D-O-C, the Diet Doc. He has companies all over the world, but he's the person who founded and started it. And, even if you want to research and read his credentials and may not be able to afford him, he might be able to guide you in the right direction. You may be able to get tips and techniques, ideas from him. I'm not saying he will. I'm just saying this is what helped me. And he works and has experience with diabetics, fitness competitors, people who want to lose weight, people who want to learn how to eat healthy, like a whole broad area of knowledge. And he's got multiple PhDs, multiple education. I can keep going on. He's saved my life too. And so my diet was written by him, and I've never met him. He's in, I believe, Indianapolis, Indiana, and he communicates via email, or if you need the phone, he's accessible and he'll schedule stuff with you. And so I've done that with him through this journey over the last year. And I'm a success not only to myself because of the team of people that I've had working with me. And he works with me and my diabetes dietitian, my endocrinologist, and we are all a cohesive team. And I found that. I went out. I looked for it. I researched it all. I found the positive people, the right support system. And that's why you can too. It may take time. It doesn't happen overnight. It was a process. And so that's what I did. And I started this so I started dieting or healthy eating in 2013 with Weight Watchers. And in the beginning of 2014, like around maybe the end of January, beginning of February, is when I hired Joe, work with the endocrinology team. And in 14 weeks, yes, not you, so don't, give yourself that time frame, me, because you'll read it on my blogs. And when you see more articles about me, it took me 14 weeks to lose the weight and get on a shape and see how you have seen I look in my pictures and on my some of the websites I've been on and on my my website, fitalissa.com. And so the reason I did that was because of the hard work I have done over the years, and because of what I wanted, and because I was ready. So that's how I did, and I picked my first show in Texas, here in Austin, Texas, which was the Texas Shredder. And I hired Dave Gooden, who's my trainer. He's known as Mr. Universe. He had owned the Hyde Park gym here, and amongst other things. And I competed in 3 shows last year. I competed in 1 show already this year with the same team of people, and I have 2 more to go, June 6th and June 19th, and season's over for this part of the year. But Danielle, really importantly, I don't know how much, I'm sure we've probably talked a long time and are almost out of information. I want to show people this. This is my journal. Very important. Just like Weight Watchers, just like taking control of your diabetes. This works for me, may not work for you. I'm not on an insulin pump. I take insulin shots because it's easier for me to compete as an athlete. I am going on Dexcom this week. I have been encouraged and influenced by our whole diabetic community, and of course, my endocrinology team, who I'm finally listening to. Listen to your doctors, they're right. With their encouragement and continuous asking of me, and my own will, I have not been willing to up until now. I ordered it last week, and I'm going on it this week because I was ready. You have to be ready. So this is my figure competition. I'm not going to show you the whole thing. This is my figure competition journal. In order to compete, you have to have close contact with your endocrinologist. I write every single detail down. You can write a book on this journal right now. That's how detailed it is. And basically, I am blessed, as I said, with you have to have that good endocrinology support. I now work with, I don't want to share who, because what's right for me and what my team of people does may be not right for you. I'm just going to say I'm blessed that I have more than just my doctor in Dr. Blevins' office working with me. But, you know, before we wrap up, what I think and I advise other people to do is with consistency. People want to know what I do with my endocrinologist. So every week I copy this journal on my copier and I staple and hand him my week's blood sugars. They look at it and see where they need to make changes. They monitor my exercise schedule, times of day I exercise, my trends and highs and lows, what I'm doing to treat my diabetes, times of day that I'm eating, what I'm feeding my body at those hours of the day, how I'm feeling, when I'm feeling sick, what do I do for low blood sugar, how do I correct for high blood sugar, what days am I having trouble emotionally, what am I doing to cope, everything. I mean, more than that. Like this morning, I ran a little differently because I didn't want to run low during this interview, but I was taught what to do so that I don't run to a danger zone. And I journal. So I'm only going to read you, like today, I wrote, and this is just me, so please don't do this at home. I just made a note of my correction factor and why I was reducing it and what I was reducing it to. And to be honest with you, I knew I was having this interview today. And although, thanks to Danielle, and a reminder, I have these handy, along with my water and my telephone to call the doctor in an emergency, and my journal. I carry these tools at all times with my meter, my insulin, and my asthma breather, because I'm a
I was good. And then if I could just, you know, I want to hear all this, but just to show you, I'm sitting here at my interview with my Omnipod, my Dexcom, my cell phone, my glucose gel, and my water, because just like you, being prepared ahead of time is probably the most important thing that we can do to best manage our diabetes. Because when you're not prepared, that's when you start having problems. But if you're prepared and you know what to be prepared for, low blood sugar, high blood sugar, you know, gel, insulin, we need to be hydrated. We need to have access to call somebody if something goes wrong. It's literally that simple. We just need to be prepared and make sure that that's, whether it means putting sticky notes on your refrigerator, on your front door, on your bathroom mirror, whatever needs to be done to get you into that habit, that's probably the best habit you can create, is being prepared.
And hydrating yourself is so important. You hear so many people saying, I can't get water, I don't like water, I have this and that's water. I mean, like I said, I'm not a dietitian, I'm not a doctor, but water is water. Talk to your doctor and find out what's best for you, how much you should be drinking, because it's so easy to get dehydrated. And so many things can happen negatively if you don't stay hydrated, along with everything else as a diabetic and regulating your blood sugars.
Absolutely. So why don't we wrap this up actually a little differently? And why don't you read us a little bit of your journal like you were going to, and that'll be a nice little way to wrap it up.
Okay. Honestly, I write so much. I'm going to write about a weekend because doctors aren't available on the weekend. And truthfully, I'm not going to call them for a 911 call if I'm not sure what to do about treating my blood sugar because of excess exercise that day. You are taught it's a learned behavior. So a Saturday, this is unexplained. So please don't take my blood sugars for your own. And this is why I think it's good to share, because people think I am perfect. Nobody's perfect. My blood sugars are excellent. When I hear people who have 5.9% blood sugar and this is what they're eating, I'm like, oh my God, what can I do to be you? You know, it's not realistic. My blood sugar levels realistically are less than, I don't want to say because I don't want you to feel this way, but between 6 and 8% because I'm an athlete. But if you're not an athlete, it's different, but that's just me. So I woke up, I went to bed at 117 on Friday night. Excellent blood sugar, less than 120. Nothing different. I correct at over a certain amount at bedtime if I'm high. Always check my sugar before I go to bed. I woke up, I eat every morning. Every 3 hours I eat. The same foods, the same time, with the same insulin to carb ratio, unless it changes. So you would think everything is consistent. It's not. I woke up with a blood sugar of 305. This is another conversation to have at a later time. You get so upset with yourself. What am I doing wrong? Why did this happen? You think too hard. Well, it happens. We don't know why. Anything can change. Even sleep, even a stressful evening, anything. We don't know. So I checked it twice. First it said 305, then it said 321. Number one, my glucometer's off. Don't give too much of a correction. I could drop. Okay. What did I do? I used my insulin to carb ratio with the amount of carbs I eat for breakfast. I eat 41 carbs for breakfast. My insulin to carb ratio is 1 to 5. And so whatever insulin I needed to give, I gave for that day. I did not correct because I was fear of going low. I gave myself Lantus. My levels were 7 units of Lantus. But I didn't correct because I was feared of going low during my intense exercise. 9:30 after exercise, when I went to the gym, I rechecked. I was in the 300s again, but I didn't correct because I was afraid I was going low. Because for me, I drop after exercise. So they say better to run high than low. 300s are horrible. Do not run in the 300s. But short term, it's fixable. It's curable. You could treat it as long as it's not long term. So I went to the gym and I did a spin class and an hour weights. That was 2 hours right there from 10 to 12.
Oh, wow. She's back. I said we lost you there for a couple minutes. So go ahead and finish up.
I did a spin class and weights. That was 2 hours from 10 to 12. So my blood sugar went from the high 300s to the low 200s. And I didn't correct. Better be safe than sorry. I was safe, not sorry. My blood sugar went unexplained from really, really high, low 200s. And then I had 22 carbs, but I did not give insulin because I had exercised and I dropped low and I didn't correct. And guess what? I was high again. However, my notes, this is just a typical high day because people get upset when they're high. So I'm giving an example of high, and another time I can give a normal day or low day. This is the note I wrote. And this, I think, might be helpful and inspire you so that you don't feel like you're hard on yourself, you feel self-defeated, you know, like I do on a day like today, because I'm normal like you. I'm so confused with what to do on a day like today. Eating breakfast high. Do I correct? Give full amount of insulin, half amount of insulin, and don't correct. If I'm normal blood sugar, less than an hour and a half before exercise, then do I eat again? Do I give insulin? What do I do? Since breakfast was less than 3 hours, you said give half a unit of correction if it's less than 3 hours, and no insulin if it's with an hour and a half. I'm confused. I made those notes.
Yeah.
The doctor's not going to know how to help me if I can't learn how to help myself.
And I think the great part about that is that you're admitting that you are confused. We all get confused. You're not alone. Like our blood sugars get high. We're here as people trying to inspire other people to do better, but guess what? It's not because we're on a high horse. It's because we're just like you, struggling to try to find our happy medium. Even though we've come so far, we still have days where we're high. I'm sitting here right now. I just checked my Dexcom. My blood sugar is 169. When we started this interview, I was at 100. I haven't eaten anything since breakfast. I have no clue why my blood sugar raised to 169. As I've been sitting here, I have no idea. But the point is this. I'm not going to beat myself up about it. I didn't do anything wrong. What I'm going to do is to think, well, that's weird, and then I'll correct. I'm going to eat lunch after we get off of this call. It's about 12:15, and I'll correct, and I'll get my insulin, and I'll move on. And I think that's the thing that so many of us struggle with. Is like, oh, well, what did I do wrong? What's wrong with me? Why am I so stupid? Why is my diabetes out of control? It's like, no, that's just the nature of being diabetic.
And being strong-minded and having the mindset and that dream and that determination and that drive is I read that day because I wanted you to see I was so upset with myself. I felt, what did I do wrong? and you want to go sit on your couch and eat. You want to go and feel sorry for yourself. Okay, so the most beneficial advice that was given to me is, what do you do on a depressed day? What do you do on a high blood sugar day when you feel down and you were like questioning what you did wrong? Keep busy. Go out and exercise. Find a hobby to do. It's the weekend. I documented that on the weekend to show you there was nothing else I could do. I came home from the gym. What did I do? I took my kids out. I don't even remember what I did that day. I just know I did not stay in and feel sorry for myself.
Right.
If I can do it, you can do it.
Same here. I agree. And thank you so much for sharing all that, because, I mean, I, just like everybody, I always tell people in these interviews, most of the time, like 99% of the time that I do these interviews, I meet the person that I'm interviewing directly before we start the interview. I don't have any background other than what I've read or what they've sent me. So I think it's so awesome to have learned all this about you, because now I'm even more inspired by you. And I hope everybody out there is as well. It's like, look, we're all in the same boat. We're all going through the same stuff. We all have highs. We all have lows. And we're all just going through our day-to-day lives trying to find, you know, the best way to work it out for ourselves. So I'm going to, if everything that Alissa does, I'm going to list under the YouTube video her website so you can follow her blogs. If she has a Twitter handle, I'm going to put that there. If she has a Facebook page that she posts stuff on, I'm going to put that there too. So you can find out all about what she does, and maybe one day you'll write a book from your journal, which might be really cool. I don't know. That might be really cool. So is there anything else you want to share before we kind of sign off?
Sure. I just want to say, like anybody else, we all want people to register on the website. We all, you know, want to say, I want this, I want that. I really would like anybody who views to register on my website. And it's not because I want to get the numbers or because I want to see who's registering. It's because I feel like I do have a lot of valuable advice and information. I talk about my own personal experiences. I interview authoritative figures and athletes. I talk about my experiences with my daughter. She shares information. And I really feel like you can go and click on somebody's blog and read it, but you don't have all of that information on that person that you can necessarily get when you register. And I am going to be coming out with products soon, and I have a lot of things in the works, and I want to be able to share it with everybody, because Danielle inspires me, and a lot of people watch her YouTube. A lot of people, you know, purchase your products that you have that are wonderful for people, and everything you do. I just want people to see what I'm able to do, so maybe I can help you too.
Awesome. So yeah, so go ahead, go over to Alissa's site, sign up for her on her list, and get her updates, and be inspired, and find motivation, and do your thing, and find your happiness. And we'll catch you on the next episode. Thank you so much for joining us, Alissa.
Thank you, Danielle. I appreciate it.
Oh, my pleasure. I'll talk to you next time. See you guys next time.
Okay, thank you.
Bye.